Welcome to the shit show that is Week 12. I am your lead conductor of the shit show at Hot BFF with 2 P's. Joined once again on Sunday by Nick Sparts, earning that Scott Fishbowl spot. Nick, welcome to it.
Gotta put in my hours to officially
qualify for next year. Yeah. Yeah, we'll jump into it just right off the gate. So, the Denver Broncos are in a dire spot. All of their quarterbacks are ineligible to play. If you've been living under a rock for some reason, this has been talked since about middle of the day yesterday. But Jeff Driscoll returned a positive test, and then the league, through contact tracing and video and everything, determined that the other quarterbacks on their roster, Drew Lock, Brett Rippon, and Blake Bortles, were around Jeff Driscoll unmasked, so deemed all of them ineligible. And now we get a practice squad wide receiver that's a former college backup quarterback starting at the quarterback position for the Denver Broncos against the Saints.
Yeah, and of course not an easy matchup on top of it. He's just going to get destroyed by that pass rush.
Yeah, I picked up Marcus Davenport in my IDP league just because of that. I think he's going to get absolutely blitzed by that pass rush, which is kind of what a pass rush is supposed to do. But, yeah, not good for any of Denver's pieces. I'd imagine they try to get creative with Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay, Royce Freeman, and anything else they can do. Royce Freeman, the backup quarterback, by the way. So
I expect a lot of Wildcat-style formations. So you may actually get some positives for whoever gets more touches between Lindsay and Gordon, probably Gordon, unfortunately, but it's still pretty ugly.
Yeah, and as far as the wide receivers go, the only book we have on Kendall Hinton is what he did in college at Wake Forest. He was a backup quarterback through 251 career passes, and most of those coming his freshman year.
So it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. He did complete a pass and threw an interception as recently as his junior year. But yeah, injuries are the reason that a moved wide receiver was necessitated for him. But as a passer, 133 at 251, good for 53%, just 1,500 yards in his career, 6 yards per attempt.
Not great.
Yeah, and 8 to 7 touchdown to interception ratio. So, yeah, not great. As a passer in college, not a good look there. You get down to his rushing numbers, though, and actually was all right there. Rushed 188 times for 880 yards, 4.7 yards per attempt, 12 touchdowns on the ground. So, again, it just lends to the fact this is going to be very Wildcat-like, which means that you probably want to avoid anything that's a wide receiver for Denver, if you can.
I mean, I normally try to avoid anything that's a wide receiver for Denver, so I'm not changing my strategy too significantly there.
Yeah, Tim Patrick's had some good weeks. Don't expect this week to be one of them. Jerry Jeudy's going to play. He should remain firmly planted on your bench. He's injured anyway. Noah Fant should, if you have a different option, go that route. Shelf any pass catcher from Denver, because if they throw more than 20 times, I'm going to be shocked.
Yeah, I think Fant's the only one I can't avoid in any of my leagues, just from how destitute tight end is right now.
Oh, yeah. And also, a note from me, who was super overexposed for some reason, find a replacement kicker if you have Brandon McManus.
Yes, I don't expect a lot of scoring from Denver, which is going to massively limit his opportunities.
Yeah. Kicker analysis brought to you by Beerfield Fantasy Football. I picked up Tyler Bass, Buffalo's kicker. Just about everywhere he was available. Big leg. Pick 2.5 PPR. Wayne Gallman, Naeem Hines, Eckler, and Brian Hill. It's Eckler and Hines for me. Jonathan Taylor not going to play. Hines' last game against the Titans was his blow-up game. They tend to give up points to receiving backs and shifty backs. We broke this down on Wednesday's episode. I think it was Wednesday we recorded. So that is easily Eckler and Hines for me.
Agreed.
Plus matchup for Eckler, Brian Hill will draw the start with Todd Gurley not going, but I doesn't quite have the same upside. And Wayne Gallman is Wayne Gallman. He's been viable, but again, just not quite the same upside as Hines or Eckler.
Agreed.
All right, moving beyond Denver. Something just to note, I guess, going forward, Santa Clara County, where the 49ers play, placed a ban on contact sports, so they're going to be forced to relocate for the remainder of the season. And not go back, because if you go back, you got to quarantine for 14 days.
So Alex has a follow-up question. Breida or Brian Hill? I think that's an easy Brian Hill.
Yeah, it's Brian Hill.
Because Gaskin is back.
Is he officially? Last note I saw, they weren't sure if they were going to activate him yet or not, but I think it's more likely than not.
I believe I saw he was officially back, but let me double check.
Okay. Remember, Roto World was slow last week, so. I know it was anticipated. I just don't know if it officially announced.
I'm not sure what the hell this tagline is. It's like, Brian Flores hasn't decided if Gaskin will be available against the Vikings. Well, the Dolphins not only play the Vikings in Week 12, they don't play the Vikings at all this season. I assume Gaskin's back. If Gaskin's not back, then I guess it's Breida, but ugh.
It is Week 12 against the Vikings, is what they said.
Yeah. So good job, Roto World.
Interns working from home this week.
Yep. And then Pittman or Edmonds. I would go Pittman for sure. He's looked awesome.
Yeah.
And this is a great matchup against Tennessee.
Without Adoree Jackson, by the way.
Yep.
So yeah, you got a great matchup for the Colts against Tennessee.
The two spots I've got Pittman and I've got him in this week.
Yeah, the Dolphins play the Jets this week, not the Vikings. So I get it. The two teams are kind of, almost, sort of, not at all comparable. But anyway.
The Vikings wish they could tank as well as the Jets.
Yeah, Breida or Brian Hill, though. You still don't know if Gaskin's going to be activated or not, because he could be.
Yeah, I believe they are a noon game, so we'll find out shortly.
We'll find out shortly here.
Assuming Gaskin is activated and goes, it's Brian Hill. Otherwise, I guess Breida.
It's a better matchup for Breida. Gross, though. But yeah, much better matchup. Anyway, Niners being forced to relocate from Santa Clara County. So looking at Arizona to play their home games, not that it makes a big difference with no fans or anything like that. So,
I mean, it's forcing extra travel on your home games, which is annoying, but
well, they're not going to be able to go back either. So I guess they're going to hole up in a hotel somewhere and find a practice facility.
Yeah, true.
Because they can't go into Santa Clara County once they're. I mean, even right now, if they travel back from their road game this week, they got to quarantine for 14 days.
Yeah.
So
did just Santa Clara do it, or was it the entire Bay Area?
Just Santa Clara.
That would be hilarious if them moving to Santa Clara ended up fucking them than if they just stayed in San Francisco.
Yep. Yep. It's them and the San Jose Sharks and San Jose State that are affected.
But Oakland's not obvious, or they're not in Oakland anymore. Never mind.
Yeah, they're in Vegas. So
yeah,
good move on their part. Baltimore's. This is important, by the way. Baltimore's COVID outbreak is still ongoing. Matt Judon and Mark Andrews tested positive, joining Lamar Jackson. So they're all on COVID-19 list. It is still happening throughout the weekend. The game is set to be played on Tuesday. To me, that is very much in jeopardy.
It's the way the NFL's talking, though. They're wanting this game to go hell or high water because they're just not. They're desperately trying to avoid either a team not playing 16 games or having to extend the season. So I still think this game happens, and I think it's a total shit show.
Well, it could be. I mean, it's going to heavily tilt towards Pittsburgh if they have to go in the condition that they're in now.
I think it's going to be. I mean, I think it's going to be Ravens just basically forfeit the game and just roll out whatever the fuck they have left available and just get their ass kicked.
Robert Griffin III, welcome back.
Yeah, RG3 with no running backs except Gus Edwards, I think.
Yeah, Gus Edwards is still available.
Mark Andrews is out now.
I don't even. Yeah,
it's going to be a disaster. And like I think they're missing most of their defensive line. So Benny Snell will run all over them. It's just going to be a disaster.
Then we got to talk about gross running backs again. Speaking of gross running backs, Kalen Ballage not expected to play this week after dealing with multiple injuries. Austin Eckler is going to be back, as we just mentioned. He will clearly have the lead back role. Troyman Pope, Josh Kelly will be change of pace, but without Ballage,
hopefully Pope, because Kelly's been awful.
Yeah. But majority of that work will go to Eckler without any Justin Jackson or Kalen Ballage.
Agreed.
So that's not a threat to him. Ian Rappaport reports Jalen Hurts will see increased playing time at quarterback Monday night. So take that for what you will.
I think it means we're coming to the end of Carson Wentz era.
Yeah, the Carson Wentz era. No, I guess you can consider starting him. And I say that only if you're in a Superflex league that got bit by the Broncos quarterback situation and the Jaguars quarterback situation and the Bears quarterback situation and everything that's going on at quarterback. You may be desperate enough for that.
My team would have to be in really, really, really bad shape for me to consider flexing him at that point over just a wide receiver or running back.
Yeah.
It would have to probably be a big mandatory 2 QB league for me to get that cute.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about it. There's may or may not be a league where I don't have healthy quarterbacks at the moment. Let's see. Alex, better off in our dynasty league, am I better off flexing Emmanuel Sanders instead of Robert Griffin III?
Okay, so that's
well, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know. You'd obviously be better off flexing RG3, assuming it's RG3 that has to play that game and they roll ahead on Tuesday night. I don't know that that's a gamble I would take.
Also, this should be a decent game for Sanders going off against Denver's second cornerback, which I know is significantly worse than Callahan, their best cornerback.
Well, Chris Harris was activated. Oh, wait, he's not with them anymore. Never mind. Yeah. Forget that statement.
So
that's a Chargers note now.
Yep. So yeah, overall, I'd still go Sanders just because I think it could just be a total disaster game for RG3 anyway.
Yeah, I do too. And the deep ball prophecy for Sanders worked out at least once last week. So yeah, I'm with you. RG3, not a great matchup even if he does play. You don't know what complement of anything he's going to have. And as much as I'd say flex the quarterback, that game is too much of a risk to flex the quarterback.
Yeah, you're too much of a risk of a 0 and too much of a risk of it just being a total disaster game anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take the safe points.
Indeed. All right, we got to break down the 49ers because they're healthy and activated a bunch of people. So Richard Sherman, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Deebo Samuel all back. Brandon Ayuk expected to miss Week 12, as is Tevin Coleman. They have the Rams. So Deebo Samuel you start Deebo Samuel when Deebo Samuel's healthy.
He's going to get Ramsey, so it's not going to be a great matchup for him. You probably lean away from it if you can.
But if you can't, Deebo Samuel. Rams have been good against the run this year also, so I'm not sprinting to start Raheem Mostert, but he does have, he's easily the most explosive back in this backfield. Jerick McKinnon and Hasty's on IR, so Jerick McKinnon didn't do a whole lot to really threaten the volume there. Tevin Coleman's still out. Jeff Wilson also activated, but Mostert's
more of a touchdown vulture.
Yeah, Mostert's still the best of that backfield if you have to start him, but I would lean away from that also because that is not a prophetic matchup. Gio Bernard expected to play this week despite being in concussion protocol, so he'll play. Expect them to lean on the running game a lot with Brandon Allen starting.
Yeah, and not a bad matchup against the Giants. So Gio should be at least a solid flex play at worst.
Julio Jones not expected to play against the Raiders this week. Calvin Ridley will go with a foot injury. Hayden Hurst is truly a game time decision. All that does is it kills the upside of Atlanta's offense. So, from a betting perspective, that should slide things a bit towards the Raiders. From a fantasy perspective, you're still starting Calvin Ridley. I don't know that I want to get cute and say that this elevates Russell Gage, for example.
With how erratic Matt Ryan's been this year, I would say don't get cute remotely. You start Ridley. Maybe you start Brian Hill if you're that desperate running back, and I'd probably leave it at that for the Falcons this week.
Right. Yeah, it does hurt Matt Ryan is also a thing to note. Not having Julio there does hurt Matt Ryan, so Ridley's still serviceable. I already talked about the Broncos shit show. Giants activated Graham Gano, so if you need to replace Brandon McManus or a kicker. Chris Carson removed from the injury report. He's expected to play. They've got Monday night against Philadelphia. So, then okay matchup there. I don't see any way you're not playing Chris Carson. Bills plays wide receiver John Brown on injured reserve, so solid bump for Gabriel Davis in that game. Chris Harris is back for the Chargers. They'll be without Casey Hayward. So, Harris typically a shadow guy. So he should see more of Stephon Diggs than Gabe Davis. So Gabe Davis is a good plug-and-play start this week without John Brown.
Yep, and it should be a good enough matchup to just roll with it.
Good enough matchup and enough points on the board in that one, I would think.
Yeah,
to be able to go with it. Detroit fired head coach Matt Patricia, GM Bob Quinn. We'll have more on this later this week, but just a quick note there, just in case any Detroit fans want to feel good about themselves. I know a few of them were. Must-win week for me. It's from Greg. PPR has Rager and Pittman in right now. Also have Drake and Higgins as options. So I'm off on Higgins. I do not want to play T. Higgins with Brandon Allen starting. In a must-win week, there's no way that I'm risking that.
Assuming that's Kenyon Drake, I probably go Kenyon Drake over Rager.
Yeah, Rager hasn't gotten enough of anything, I don't believe, to where I would be more.
He's getting like 5 or 6 targets, but it's 5 or 6 targets from a kind of disastrous Philly offense right now, which is not quite the volume I want to force a guy in.
One touchdown, yardage high is 55 in his first game. I think Kenyon Drake's floor is better than Rager's in a must-win week. I don't think you can take the bust.
I think it's Drake Pittman are the two.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's Drake and Pittman. Pittman
Which
again.
Makes me sad on Higgins because he was awesome with Burrow, but with no Burrow, that dream is dead.
Yeah, that's not something you can risk. So Pittman and Drake. Kicks from Mike, standard league. Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray? 2 questions here. So first one's Herbert or Kyler.
I mean, even with the rough matchup, I don't bench Kyler.
Yeah, Kyler's got the shoulder issue too, but I don't bench Kyler. Just the rushing upside's there. Herbert's got Buffalo, which again I think could be a big matchup, but I don't see how you bench Kyler either.
Yep, and the Patriots' pass defense has not been nearly as good this year.
No, it hasn't been. They're also banged up. And then Miles Sanders or Raheem Mostert. I'm still going Sanders there against Seattle.
Yeah, much easier matchup, and Mostert's just coming off injury, so give me the guy who's been doing it. Even if it's a terrible offense, it's such a good matchup. You just roll with it.
Well, and he doesn't have 4 other running backs sitting behind him either. So
no, just one diminutive one.
Yep. So those 2 questions for us: Kyler Murray and Miles Sanders.
Ooh, here's one: Brian Hiller, CEH in full PPR. I think I might go Brian Hill on that one. Tampa Bay's got a really good run defense, and they don't really throw the ball to CEH.
No, and coming off the bye, or they went on bye last week, 2 weeks ago. Either way, you still have Le'Veon Bell looming there too. So even though he hasn't done a whole lot, it's just enough to cut into CEH's floor. I would also say Brian Hill. And I don't feel good saying it, but, those are the types of decisions that you make right now. And Ito Smith hasn't done a whole lot. Brian Hill's looked relatively good for Atlanta. So, yeah, I would pull this trigger on Brian Hill there.
I've been very disappointed in CEH's passing usage. I was expecting way more from that this year.
Yeah, I was too. And really, I don't know that CEH has had a big... I mean, he's been fine. But I don't believe there's been a big blow up since week 1. No, there hasn't been. He's gone over 100 rushing yards one other time. He did have 2 touchdowns last week. But receiving work has not been there, no.
And that was a way easier matchup last week than he got this week.
He's only gotten 5 targets once since they signed Bell. And yardage-wise, he hasn't been over 20 in the last 5 weeks. So
for receiving yardage?
For receiving yardage, yeah.
Yeah, that's not enough.
And even rush-wise, he's gotten under 15 carries the last 4 games. So, yeah, it's Brian Hill. I'd expect his workload to be more significant and his involvement to be higher.
Agreed.
Robbie Anderson or Chase Edmonds in PPR. Anderson's got a good matchup. I took a long, hard look at Robbie Anderson this morning against the Vikings and said I might want to do this before I backed off of it.
I don't see any reason why you wouldn't unless you for sure had a better option. So Robbie Anderson, for me.
Yeah.
Now that Drake's back, I don't think you can trust Edmonds anymore.
So the reason I didn't in Dan's league is the fact that slot receivers are absolutely going off against the Cardinals. So I've got Jacoby Myers plugged in. I've got Cooper Kupp plugged in, who shouldn't see Richard Sherman in that matchup. And then not Michael Thomas, sorry. I had Terry McLaurin plugged in, and what was the other one? I'm wide receiver deep in Dan's Dynasty League, our home league.
I'm there with you, so.
Yeah. So I have McLaurin. I might put him in over Debo. I would put him in over Debo. That would be the only one that I would make that move for. Because I plugged Debo in when I activated him, but that's what I was looking at. I wasn't taking Kupp or Myers out. And yeah, I wasn't taking Myers out because, again, for anybody that has Jacoby Myers, I'll just say it. Slot receivers have ripped up Arizona. Myers is playing the Edelman role. Him and Damiere Byrd have kind of alternated relevant weeks. This is a Jacoby Myers week. And we've seen what that looks like. It can go to the tune of 20-plus points. So, but yeah, Robbie Anderson, Darren. It's a very, very good matchup for him. Saints are going to be without the entire left side of their offensive line against Denver. Teron Armstead, Andrus Peat, both going to miss Week 12. I don't know that does much of anything with as mobile as Taysom Hill is, but worth noting.
I mean, it hurts the running game, which sucks for Kamara, but it should still be just such a smash spot for him. It doesn't matter.
Right. Tua doubtful to go this week, so Fitzpatrick will be back to return to the starting role. That doesn't really do anything to adjust, the fact that you're playing Parker, or, offense doesn't move.
I mean, it worked out for me. I'm throwing Fitzpatrick in over Ryan in a league.
Yeah, there you go. It is a good start spot for Fitzpatrick, but because they have the Jets this week, not the Vikings, even though the Vikings would still also be a good start spot.
Yeah, that wouldn't change much for me.
Yeah, it's a good start spot for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Devontae Parker, you're still rolling with, and we'll get you news here on the running back as soon as it breaks. James Conner's in jeopardy of missing this week after a positive COVID test. He's going to be tested.
I think if the game goes on Tuesday, he can't play. Like that, it's just done.
He said he's going to be tested Sunday. It was the note on Roto World. He's been slacking, but So I guess if he returns a negative test on Sunday, but either way, yeah, have contingencies in order. And I would not, outside of Steelers wide receivers, I'm not, I guess Benny Snell, you can have sitting there. I just don't want to bank on anything happening on Tuesday, though.
Yeah, I mean, especially a player who, I don't believe, as far as I've been told, there's any chance he can go Tuesday, on top of the game being potentially canceled. It's way too much risk. I've gotten all my James Conner shares out of my lineups.
Right, and even with Benny Snell, unless your commissioner is doing, hey, let me know before the games kick off who you would sub out if this game gets canceled and that type of thing, I would take anything from Tuesday out of your lineups. I think a lot of commissioners have adopted that, but just if they haven't, take anything from Tuesday out. Because you cannot risk the 0 at this stage in the season.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Some of y'all maybe are 11-0, but you're probably not the majority.
Right, exactly. Christian McCaffrey ruled out for Week 12. Mike Davis is a solid start this week.
We may not even see McCaffrey back next week.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor, as we mentioned earlier, has been placed on the reserve COVID list. He's not going to play against Tennessee. Nyheim Hines, we talked about this matchup at length on the show on Wednesday, but Nyheim Hines was the better start, in my opinion, anyway, given the type of back that succeeds against Tennessee and what Nyheim Hines did to Tennessee last time these two teams got together. Now he figures to get the majority of the work, with Jordan Wilkins mixing in as a solid flex play.
Yep, I do like Wilkins as a flex play this week, but Hines is in a smash spot right now.
He is, and you need to mash Nyheim Hines into your lineup if you have him. But again, Wilkins, not a bad flex play.
Hopefully you didn't drop him after you put in that massive Week 1 bid.
Right. Zach Ertz not going to return for Week 12. Dallas Goedert will get that week's matchup against Seattle. It is a plus matchup, but again, the Eagles have looked like a dumpster fire, so you can probably do better. The Jaguars, speaking of dumpster fires, holy shit. Chris Conley and DJ Chark are going to miss Week 12. Laviska Shenault will return. Neutral matchup, but they're starting Mike Glennon. So, yeah, kind of a no-go for me.
Shenault is one of my, if the Ravens-Steelers game doesn't happen, flex ins, but that's about as confident as I am on that.
Yeah, they have the Browns, which is game script neutral, but it's Mike Glennon, and I unfortunately do not like, I guess, Keelan Cole's a flex in this situation. But, yeah, I don't love anything going on with Mike Glennon at quarterback. That's just an indictment.
Yeah.
Patriots are going to be without Isaiah Wynn and Rex Burkhead. Been placed on IR, so that's a little bit of a bump to Damian Harris. And then Sam Darnold will return to be the Jets' starting quarterback this week. So,
woo.
Yeah, it's better for Denzel Mims, I guess. And that's about it.
Crowder.
So
Gaskin is
out. Yep, I just saw that. So it will be Matt Breida. With Patrick Laird, I guess, mixing in behind him.
Yeah, so Breida would... What was the exact question here? It was Breida or Hill. I think I still go Brian Hill, but it's closer now.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with you. I would also still lean Brian Hill. Breida's not look good this season, even in spot duty.
He hasn't, which is sad because I used to really enjoy watching him on. I guess it was all Shanahan that was driving his ability.
Yeah, he makes running backs out of nothing. Speaking of which, before we get to the second page of crap here, let's see if anything else has come. A couple things. Xavier McKinney's playing for New York. Okay, whatever. Sony Michel active for Week 12 against the Cardinals. That doesn't do a whole lot for me to move anything.
I mean, it makes Harris slightly more annoying to try to play, and then I'm staying even further away from the rest of their guys. Just anytime you add more bodies to that backfield, it makes guys less appealing. Basically,
well, you're just replacing a body. Burkhead went on IR.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Still, that's still more helpful to James White than it is to Harris, because Harris doesn't get used to the fucking passing game for some reason.
No, he doesn't. And with Sony Michel, he's not giving anybody a reason to have to give him carries, so I wouldn't expect him to command a ton of volume anyway.
Yeah, he'll probably score 3 touchdowns just to spite us.
Yeah, he likes to piss me off. Cardinals inactives, no surprises there. Colts inactives. I had a note on this that I don't know that we've gotten to yet. So DeForest Buckner and Danico Autry for the Colts are on the COVID-19 reserve list, which is just up to Derrick Henry because they're missing their interior defensive line. The Colts are, so.
And maybe a slight boost to Tannehill with the pass rush being less, but I expect it's still a pretty heavy run game for them like usual.
Yeah, I do too. And the offensive line for Tennessee's beat up as well, so.
Okay, so that's a big help since they would have been manhandled otherwise.
Right. Taylor Lewan's got a torn ACL. Another one of their starters is on IR. Can't remember who, but another one of their starters is on IR. So they're hurting as well. But it is bigger for Derrick Henry that those guys are going to miss. Bobby Okereke, one of their starting linebackers, also going to miss. So banged up the middle for the Colts.
Okay.
Tua's officially inactive. Ahmed, Chandler Cox. For the Browns, no surprises there. Gio Bernard officially active. Vikings without Ezra Cleveland and Irv Smith this week. Irv Smith is of note, also without Adam Thielen. So Adam Thielen's going to be on the COVID-19 list. Justin Jefferson becomes the all too obvious top option there.
And then Kyle Rudolph, not a terrible tight end stream if you lost Andrews or something similar.
Did plug him in somewhere. So, yeah, if you lost Andrews, Kyle Rudolph is fine because there's going to be a second receiving option there. BC Johnson would be the wide receiver that steps into that. But, without Irv Smith and Adam Thielen, that opens up some targets. Browns, Denzel Ward is not going to play for the Browns, so that certainly helps the Keelan Cole flex value with no Denzel Ward. Nothing else surprising there. Sorry, inactives just started rolling in. Titans without Adam Humphries and Adoree Jackson again this week, as we mentioned. So the absence of Adoree Jackson is up to Michael Pittman. Jaguars, exactly as we thought. They're going to be without DJ Chark, Chris Conley, and Gardner Minshew.
Minshew should be back next week, I believe.
Yes. Yep, I would expect next week. Hayden Hurst officially active for the Falcons, so he's a fine tight end flex if you need it. In the absence of Julio. For the Raiders, they're going to be missing defensive end Cleveland Farrell. So that definitely helps out Matt Ryan a little bit. Also without Jalen Richard, for whatever that's worth. And Julio Jones officially inactive.
Yep. I would try to avoid Ryan this week if you could.
Yeah. But if you have to start in the absence of Farrell, it does help just a smidge, even though that's still not going to be great. So Jerry Jeudy, we already talked about. He's going to play this week with an ankle injury, but no quarterback to throw him the football. Tyler Higbee, game time decision with an elbow injury. Keep an eye on that. Todd Gurley, not going to play. That's why we've talked about Brian Hill a lot. Chris Harris is active for the Chargers for the first time since week 3. Expect him to shadow Stephon Diggs. Melvin Ingram back on IR. No Casey Hayward. That's why Gabe Davis is a good play.
I would still start Diggs though.
You're not
worry about.
Yeah, you're not sitting Diggs with a Harris shadow at this point in his career. But it does cap upside just a hair because it's better than no Chris Harris.
Agreed.
Sammy Watkins going to return for the Chiefs this week against the Bucks. I'll let you take that one.
Am I the official Sammy Watkins desk?
Yeah, you are the Sammy Watkins news desk.
I mean, he's coming off a long injury. I expect him to kind of rotate with Hardman and Robinson. I would not be trying to start him this week. Give it at least through this tough matchup, and we'll see what we're looking at next week.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, the only thing that it does hurt a little bit with him being active is, Hardman and Robinson are less YOLO plays this week.
Yeah, I would just try to avoid YOLO playing anyone on the Chiefs and only start your 3 smash spots of Hill, Kelsey, and Mahomes.
Indeed. We just talked about Adam Thielen. Mitchell Trubisky is going to get the quarterback start for the Bears this week. Nick Foles is going to be unable to go with a hip injury. Is an upgrade at the quarterback position in my estimation, but it doesn't change your fantasy outlook for the Bears.
Agreed. D for next week, do you like Chiefs or Raiders more? I don't remember what the schedule is.
I've got it pulled up. Hold on. For next week, Raiders have the Jets. Chiefs have the Broncos. Expect the Broncos to not be quarterbackless by next week.
Yeah, give me Raiders.
Yeah, I'll take the Raiders against the Jets. We've seen them be bad regardless of who's starting. At least the Broncos have shown a little bit of... The Broncos have been inconsistent, but it hasn't been consistently bad like the Jets have been. And like I said, I do expect them to have some semblance of a quarterback next week. Keep in mind that Jeff Driscoll is the only one that returned a positive test. The other 3 were sent home for contact tracing. If they come back negative, which odds are one of them will, if not all of them.
It'd be... Unless they were all sitting in small confined spaces and talking face to face,
sharing drinks and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I expect, at least one of them, probably Locke, you'll assume, will be out there next week. Not that that's a bad start for the Chiefs, but not nearly as good as the Saints are this week.
No. And not as good as the Raiders will be against the Jets.
Against the Jets, yeah.
Right, who have been pretty hapless. So. Yep. Good problem to have, though. But yeah, Trubisky with the Bears, it doesn't really change anything to me. He was targeting Jimmy Graham in the end zone a little bit more, but Allen Robinson's still really the only piece you want to roll with if you can help it.
Honestly, since I know they're not going to be good targets, I just want lots of targets to Robinson, and that's basically all you can hope for.
Yep. Valdez-Scantling truly questionable against the Bears this week after hurting his Achilles late in the week. That is the Sunday night game. Alan Lazard gets the bump up for that. With no BS.
You know what I love to start? Speed guys who hurt their Achilles in the late part of the week.
Yeah, no. Even if he's playing, you're not starting him.
Yeah, let's just avoid that.
And it's a tough matchup, regardless. Both Bears cornerbacks are good. Jalen Johnson's in conversations for Defensive Rookie of the Year, so...
Yeah, this is you start your obvious names, Rodgers, Jones, and
Robinson,
Adams, and then
just for the Packers.
Maybe Lazard, and that's it.
Yeah, and Adams, just because you're not sitting, Lazard is a deep flex play this week, in my opinion. Just given the matchup.
I know some people are rushing out to start him, but I would still, if you could, still try to avoid it.
Right. A lot of that's also going to depend on Akeem Hicks in the late window as well. Keep an eye on that. Bears pass rush in particular is a much different animal when Akeem Hicks plays versus doesn't play. He's questionable with a hamstring.
Yeah, you guys just can't get any pressure up the middle without him, right?
Right, exactly. So, and him getting pressure up the middle really opens up the edges as well for Mac and others. So it's just it's one less body that they have to worry about up front for Green Bay.
Plus, it makes Jones's life way easier.
It does. Colts, we already talked about what they're missing, but no DeForest Buckner, no Danico Autry. And Dolphins, we already talked about what they're missing as well, is their running back room is a little beat up. Cool.
Don't see any other news, so last call for questions?
Yep, that's what I was going to do. Last call for questions, and I was in the middle of hitting a refresh. So, last call for questions. We will give it about 30 seconds for any additional questions that anybody may have. I'm excited, personally, to watch this Denver game, just because you don't get to see non-quarterbacks start at quarterback very often. And It's one of the few things I have to look forward to this week. Yep. Good luck to everyone. And be thankful you get better games than we had on Thursday.
Yep. Hopefully we get better. That Dallas Washington game should have been good, but Dallas just fell apart.
Yeah, shit the bed, lost Zach Martin again. So, they're in rough shape. All right, guys, we will catch you on, I think we got a recording scheduled for Wednesday, which is also my wife's due date. So, barring labor, we'll catch you guys early this week.
All right.
See ya.
Good luck with all that, Hopper.
Thanks.